It's here, guys. The all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5 has been fully revealed, and we have all the details. Now, this, of course, is a very popular vehicle on our channel, and we cannot wait to show you everything this new CX-5 is offering. I promise it's a lot. So let's go ahead and dive in.
So like Mason was just talking about, this CX-5 really is a big deal. Obviously, it's a very, very important, it's the most important product for the Mazda brand. They've sold 4.5 million units globally since this product was introduced. It is the most best-selling vehicle, in the US as well for the Mazda brand. And it's one of those vehicles that's always been kind of vying for the top spot, not in sales figures, but in just kind of the reception that it gets. It's always just been a very strong product. But we've been waiting for this next generation to come out for a long time, and we're definitely thankful that it is finally here.
Yeah. So what we're going to be doing in today's video, unfortunately, we're not here in person with the car, but we do hope to be covering that later on in person, so stay tuned to the channel for that. But what we're going to be doing is just breaking down some of the individual details. We have pictures of it, and we can really dive into the information that Mazda has sent us. So we'll start out by talking about the outside, because that's, of course, how we start out most of our reviews. So when it comes to the exterior of this vehicle, you'll notice that it has that signature Mazda design characteristic. It looks extremely premium. It really looks more like a luxury SUV than the vast majority of options in this segment do. We've already seen things like the all-new RAV4 and covered those extensively on the channel, and I have to say this thing looks very expensive and premium compared to that. Now, as far as the grille is concerned, it has that signature Mazda shape to it. I am noticing, though, that they've added maybe some extra black elements, and the headlights are very different looking as well.
Yeah, for sure. And, kind of different than a lot of the rivals are going. They're kind of toughening up. The trend right now is to make everything look tough and off-road focused. Mazda's really focusing in on making this super sleek and, like Mason said, upscale looking. It's not actually as radically different in terms of design as you might think from the previous generation, but that is honestly a good thing because it sets it apart in the segment. Now, it is kind of disguising some of the dimensional changes, though. So there's, for instance, a significant widening of the front. So that's kind of why we see the grille itself stretched out and new elements added, with the headlights also being elongated.
Yeah, and it now has a lot of the same elements as things like the CX-70 and CX-90. Now, Drew mentioned it was a ½ inch wider, but I think the bigger news is that it's actually longer as well, because one of the things the CX-5 always struggled with was space, and they have listened. So it's 4.5 inches longer than the previous generation, which means we're expecting about 183 inches in length, which is very similar to most of the competition. And it does also have a 3-inch longer wheelbase. That should mean that we have a lot more interior space and cargo capacity, which is definitely an area where the CX-5 struggled in the past.
Yeah, for sure. That could be the game-changing element for the CX-5, because that was its weakest element, was just a lot smaller than things like the RAV4 and the CR-V. So we'll see if that really changes the game. Now, as we look at the back, you'll see it also continues to have a very premium look back here as well. Again, kind of longer look to the taillights. Prominent Mazda branding, which is actually spelled out across the back, gives it a more premium look. I think it looks a lot like the Lexus NX, and you still get those nice exposed exhaust tips as well.
We expect all the safety systems to remain standard equipment, and Mazda has said that they are offering more advanced safety systems or will be offering that on the CX-5. We don't have official details on that yet, though. If you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then, we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
And if you want to know about all the latest and greatest rides, then make sure to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the newest cars. But I'm sure you've been anxiously waiting to see the interior, so let's go ahead and move into that. Now, just like with our full reviews, we'll kind of move section through the interior and kind of look at some of the details. First of all, seats, of course. Mazda is saying that they have made these seats significantly more comfortable. They have more concave surfaces, is how they describe it. We'll see if it keeps the full Nappa leather at the top end trim. That was a very premium feature that they had on the CX-5. It may not make it to the next generation, but it certainly would be nice to see the seats get a little bit more comfortable because they were on the firmer side for the segment.
Yeah. As far as features, we do also expect them to retain their heating and ventilation, unlike some of the rivals like the Honda CR-V. And as far as overall cabin materials, you can just kind of see throughout the cabin, it does look very premium. Really, Mazda always has a nice cabin, so I'm expecting that to remain the same. Hopefully they don't cheap things out for this new model. I really don't think they will, though, because that was one of the stronger elements of the CX-5. Now, one of the weaker elements was in terms of technology. So Mazda has definitely worked a lot to update the technology as well. So I'm expecting things like a head-up display to remain available, and also things like a digital gauge cluster, but way more important than that would be the main infotainment screen.
Right, so you can tell right off the bat, this thing is huge. It's actually 15.6 inches is what Mazda says. So that would immediately position this as one of the very largest displays you can get in the entire segment. Just kind of neck and neck with the Volkswagen Tiguan. Everything else is significantly below that. So this is really promising to be a huge improvement, not just because it's big, of course, but more importantly is because of the software. So Mazda says this will come with Google built in. So we're really happy about that. It's like Mason said, it's been a very weak spot for Mazda for a long time. Their navigation system is very antiquated. There's always performance issues and glitches and stuff. Hopefully now, taking in Google's expertise into the software, we should see a lot more seamless of an experience, and also have it work with your phones a lot easier.
Yeah, I absolutely am a huge fan of that.
And it's a touch screen.
And it's a touch screen. Yeah, let's not forget that it should be a touch screen for both the Mazda infotainment and everything else. So really, really happy about that. I know that really a lot of the people that I showed the CX-5 to, the multiple times that we had it on loan, were like, oh, I hate that screen. And I think that's going to fix a lot of issues for the brand. Now, moving out back to the occupant section, what about rear space and comfort? Well, Mazda does not have the official legroom figures out yet. However, they have said it's going to be larger in all configurations. So the previous CX-5 was sitting at around 39 inches of legroom. I never really thought it felt like 39 inches of legroom, but they have said it's going to be a lot bigger in this new generation. Of course, it's a lot longer on the outside, so that makes a lot of sense. You should have more room here in the new CX-5, which I think is a big deal. The doors are also supposed to open wider, which they were quick to brag will allow for easier loading in of car seats, if that's something that applies to you. And I think something that applies to everyone in the cabin would be the new additional panoramic moonroof. So the CX-5 never had the pano before, and now they are finally adding that as well. So that's a nice feature that you can expect. Cargo capacity, of course, we expect that to increase as well. So the 2025 model was one of the very smallest in the segment, topped out at under 60 cubic feet. So you're looking at 15 to 20 cubic feet less than some of the main rivals. We do expect this new generation to grow to be probably not the best in the class, but a lot more competitive, maybe 70 cubic feet as a maximum.
Yeah, and that reminds me, I want to kind of circle back to the rear seats. Mazda, with this unveiling, is claiming best-in-class room for the new CX-5. We'll see. I don't know what they mean by room. They didn't define that. It's PR speak. It could be, shoulder room. Who knows? But that's what they're claiming. If they were to dethrone something like the CR-V, it would really blow my mind. But it would be a great thing for the brand, that's for sure. Now let's talk about what powers this next generation of the CX-5. Well, this is one area that seems a little bit familiar, maybe a little more familiar than you might expect, because Mazda says that this will launch with the same powertrain that the current model has. So that is the 2.5S is what they call it. It's a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine with 187 horsepower. It has standard all-wheel drive and has a 6-speed automatic transmission. So obviously on the transmission side of things, that's kind of an older school transmission. Certainly might have expected to see an upgrade to maybe an 8-speed automatic. But here's the kicker. Mazda has confirmed that they will be offering a new hybrid model later on. So it's not going to come out at launch, but for 2027 calendar year, they will have a hybrid system. And it's not going to be Toyota's hybrid system this time like it is in the CX-50. This is going to be their own hybrid system.
Yeah, they're not sharing a lot of details about that right now, but as far as fuel economy for the engine that's currently available, we expect that to remain very similar at 28 mpg. The hybrid, we're hoping, will be somewhere like 40 mpg when that does come out. Although I do have to say, I wish they would just kind of launch the hybrid. I know they're probably still working on, the whole system itself, but I wish that was available here at launch, because I think that is going to be a big deal, especially with a lot of the rivals like the RAV4 going hybrid exclusive. I think a lot of buyers will miss that function.
The other thing Mazda made no mention of in the unveiling of this new product is the turbo model. So previously you could get the 2.5 turbo in the CX-5 on your upper trims. That made over 250 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. So it was really fast for the segment, pretty rare. They didn't mention that, so we're believing that that's probably going to be discontinued for this new generation, which is certainly a shame, because it did help it stand apart from most of the competition. We have an upcoming Tiguan model, which is going to have a more powerful turbo, but really largely that has left the entire segment having a high-powered option.
Now, I'm sure you might also be curious about pricing. Mazda, of course, has not released the pricing yet. This is very early on. However, we do have the 2025 prices for reference, and I don't think that's going to change a lot. So right now it starts at around $28,500. So we're estimating the trims to remain the same, and we're expecting a starting point around $30,000. Because that new hybrid powertrain is not available, I'm expecting it will top out around $39,000, which is actually a little bit less, but that's factoring in that we do expect the turbo model to be completely gone. So you might actually see a little bit of a price decrease on the top end, because you now have just the standard engine. And then, of course, when the hybrid comes out, we do expect that to cost just a little bit more. Now, if you're looking to buy a Mazda CX-5 or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, a link is provided in our video description, and we also have a pinned comment at the top of this video. And guys, that's going to wrap up our first look review. Well, unfortunately, we weren't hands-on with it, but our first actual look at it on the screen with the CX-5. Of course, we will be covering this model in extensive detail later on, so hopefully we'll go hands-on with it here shortly. So be sure to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on the latest content. We will, of course, be covering this model extensively, as well as all of its rivals, such as the new upcoming Toyota RAV4. I promise you won't want to miss out. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.